Welcome back, everybody. Derrick Soo, your 2022 Oakland mayoral candidate. Well, I want to expound upon what I spoke about yesterday, about personal safety. Yesterday, I talked about having a personal guard dog always around you. And I have Mama, and she's my personal guard dog. While I've really toned her down in terms of her aggression, and now she's more of just an intimidation factor. She has history of biting people, so that's known to a lot of people. And then her really large size, she's over 100 pounds, is very daunting if you think about it. Now, versus where previously I had Pandora. And Pandora, she was my pit bull Amstaff, and she was between 50 and 52 pounds her entire life. So she was never a big dog. She was small. A lot of people said, you know, why is she so tiny? I said, she's not actually tiny. She's actually near her exact size that she's supposed to be. And so I said that she was just simply petite, but yet in terms of her attitude, it was very different than this dog. And Pandora, through her entire lifetime, she was always a concern on mine, because it was like having a loaded gun walking on the street, even though she was extremely well trained for what I had her to do. And my wife at the time said, you know, I never feel unsafe walking with Pandora. And she would walk Pandora with a lead. I, on the other hand, I would walk her with a lead, you know, going along the avenue on the sidewalk, and so as not to scare a whole lot of people. Because when I actually had Mary loose and she ran down the sidewalk, she panicked a lot of people, and I was notified that of her whereabouts. I went and chased her down, fetched her. But dogs are a lot of fun. They're great companions. They're also great for families. You know, growing up, like I said yesterday, practically every family in the neighborhood had dogs. Whether they had kids or not, it didn't matter. Everybody had a dog in the neighborhood. And I'm not talking about Chihuahuas and little French poodles or anything. There's nothing wrong with that if you have the security already in place. You know, at first we had Dachshund. My mother loved the little wiener dogs. I grew up being annoyed by them. That's why we had the Belgian Shepherd. But moving on, the next step up that I spoke about yesterday was this. Pepper spray. This is an OC spray. You can get this over the counter. I get my supply from Amazon. I order it online. It's about a little over $12. But what this essentially is, it's a chemical poke in the eye for a person who's really deserving. You know, they're annoying you, they're threatening, they may even have a weapon of some form, not a gun. This gives you reach of 10 feet, and it's $12. That's really easy to come up with. I've supplied a lot of folks here, especially the women, with these so that at night they have some form of protection from intruders or even their domestic partners at times. Times are crazy, and one of the things that we have a big uptick in crime. And one of the things that I've been pointing out to a lot of city council members, the administrators of Oakland, law enforcement, and anybody else who will listen. So I'm going to tell you why the uptick in crime and why it is so difficult, excuse me, why it is so difficult to find and apprehend some of the criminals here in Oakland or right in the Bay Area itself. And it goes back to the shelter in place that was put in place at the beginning of COVID. And so those of us who are lived on the streets, some of us were able to go indoors or in the trailers as a security precaution for your health. But yet it still left a lot of folks out here on the street. But also it gave an opportunity to criminals and terrorists of our city to set up shop, so to speak, in plain sight. And so they can do whatever harm in the neighborhood close by, have a dumping zone to put all their stuff, and nobody's going to go look because, well, number one, if it's inside of a tent or any kind of shelter, the police actually need a search warrant to go search or your permission. And you know how that goes. So we have criminal elements hiding under the disguise of homeless folks. And there's a lot of them that work very hard to set up inside camps that are safe havens or offer some sort of security. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we've had here in East Oakland. And we've been battling the same crime rings back and forth, and they bounce between several different camps, a lot of different camps, and they're all big camps. So they sometimes come here with their stolen vehicles. We just had 2 stolen vehicles towed out yesterday afternoon, and we may have one down at the end of the street right now, but I don't know. I haven't checked on that one yet. But there's a crime ring, and the reason why you'll remember 2 Saturdays ago, there was a shooting here. Well, that shooter was from West Oakland. That's where we know that he's has a place. And so while they could go look there, he may have 10, 12 other places and locations that he's able to hide out at. He doesn't go home to a home address. He may have one. That's just for his parole, but he actually moves around. We have a lot of criminals doing that here in Oakland, and it's a matter of getting them identified and the police nabbing them and getting recording of these individuals, which we're doing here in East Oakland. We have cameras set up all in the area, plus we have video all along this street. So everything that happens on this street is video recorded. And then over on Hawley, we have cameras over on Hawley, all the way down to 75th. So everything's recorded, documented, and goes on iCloud. And so that's how we've been fighting the real bad criminal element here. For a while, there was a lot of gunfire, we had several murders around the corner within the last 30 days. A couple was actually shot and killed right over here at 75th and Hawley one evening. And I'm not going to go into details on that one. That one was a real sad situation on that. Then we had another murder before that of another single female. She was shot in broad daylight, even with the cameras. So that one, we still are hoping one day the police apprehend these folks. Like what happened up in Sacramento. We find that one of those suspects had an outstanding warrant from another county in the state for over 2 years. And that's because they bounce around, they move around, and so they can't keep track of a lot of criminals. And it's the same shell game that they're doing by setting up homeless encampments. How we're going to fix that is what I've been talking about, the creation of the tiny home villages. And I have a really incredible plan to restore Oakland, restore neighborhoods that were lost in the late 60s and 70s. We're going to restore those back into community land trusts and tiny home villages. Then the next project we have, is to revitalize Oakland. We have to create a new destination attraction. We had the Warriors, we had the Oakland Raiders, and we have currently still the Oakland A's. But the Oakland A's cannot be the focal point of our destination attraction. We have to bring in more. So what we need to do is revitalize an area that is really underutilized. I'm referring to Middle Harbor. And so I have a lot of different type of plans for Middle Harbor to create the interest to bring new tourism into Oakland, new business into Oakland, new residents into Oakland, and at the same time create affordable housing for all. So we have security and safety. Like I said, times are saying that perhaps we should look at carrying OC spray, stabbing tools like the pencils, not so much carrying knives. Knives are bad unless you're really trained in how to use one. If you're not, that can be a real detriment for you. So like myself, I'm highly trained in knife fighting and in small swords like machetes. So I have an advantage that a lot of folks don't have. But yet, that's how I've been able to stay out here and defend myself along with my new dog now. So there's a lot of security issues here in Oakland, and we all have to take precautions now because there's a dangerous element that's hiding within our communities. And again, like I said, first we need to get all the innocent folks that want housing, because nobody wants to be out here homeless. Literally, nobody in their right mind wants to be homeless. It's miserable, it's expensive, it takes all your time, it takes all your energy. I mean, it sucks the life out of you. And so, I've been able to successfully house 28 out of 32 residents here. Then we had the shooting here. The resident that lived here, once they come out of the hospital, they go into respite care. From respite care, there's a couple of months there, and then into permanent supportive housing. Because the person's young age, he's going to get a lot more assistance to help them stay off the streets permanently. So it's programs like that that we have to put in place. And while Gavin Newsom's new mental court hearings are very controversial, I do support them, because there are some folks that are not capable of having or making their own decisions. It's much like I've been through a hearing where my dad's competence and comprehension was tested, and since he didn't meet the minimum standards for him making decisions on his own, he was put into custodial care, we'll say, where there was a person who oversaw his needs and care and upkeep until his passing. So it's much like the same thing, but being applied to these, there's not going to be a whole lot of folks they're making it sound like there's a lot of folks. And there may be, but that is a very biased opinion. There's a lot of folks here that don't need that. They just need somewhere that they know that they can call their own. And we've been able to provide that. Out of the 32 folks that lived here when I first came back during COVID in 2020, there were 32 residents here. We successfully housed 28 out of those 32. And then this final resident will bring the count to 29 that has gone into permanent supportive housing through programs through the county and state, and also now getting some funding from federal. So we need to get these folks help. And then housing. We have to get housing down to an affordable level for everybody across the board, not just for the wealthy. Because we've seen gentrification at work here, and it doesn't work. So I hope you continue to follow me. I have some incredible plans and vision for the city of Oakland, restoring pride back into Oakland, restoring interest and destination attractions, jobs, well-paying jobs, not minimum wage jobs. We're talking living wage jobs, new union work, new union jobs, expansion of education here in Oakland. So thanks for following me today, and we'll see you next time.